from the spooky South Coast, Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin, Matt Costa, science advisor, Matt Moniz. It's just you and I, Matt, going old school. Going old school, but bringing in new technology tonight, which you'll be seeing in just a few moments. We're going to try and have live video of the Week in Weird with our news correspondent, Ashley Turner, coming up in just a few moments. That should be exciting. Why do you pick Mercury retrograde to try this stuff, Matt? You just like to live dangerously?
I'm trying to prove that it's all bunk.
I have to agree. I have to agree because we have problems with technology year round. It doesn't matter what Mercury's doing.
We always love Mercury retrograde.
It's a convenient excuse for some of the stuff that we screw up. But
I like to blame it on Mercury retrograde just because it's easier.
Yeah, and even when it's not in retrograde, you still blame it.
Like, oh, it's totally not me. It's Mercury retrograde.
Right. There was I have to say, and I don't mean this toward anybody in particular because there was a lot of people that was posting this. But I'm sure, like me, you're probably friends with a lot of people that are sensitive to energies on social media. You know, a lot of psychics, mediums, empaths, energy workers, vampires, what have you. There's a lot of people out there that are sensitive to the manipulation of energies. And I just kept seeing people posting like last week, especially on Monday. Mm-hmm. Does anybody get like a weird feeling? There's like something weird going on with the energy right now. How about the fact that there's a total solar eclipse about to happen?
Right.
Like, that's probably what's messing up the energy. But, hey, not everybody's paying attention to what NASA says. I mean, the president doesn't listen to NASA. Why should anybody else?
Right. I'm not sure how much stock you can put into Mercury retrograde anyway, but...
I will say this about Mercury retrograde. You can look at it directly without special glasses.
I do have to say, when I was... I attended, like, a little... I guess gathering of people at the park down in New Bedford. Mm-hmm. And where they were celebrating the eclipse, and some of my electronic equipment wasn't working the way I thought it should. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Because I know there's like, I don't know.
I asked our engineer here at the station, Frank, if we should expect any kinds of problems during the eclipse.
Yeah, because of satellites and everything.
But he said no. He said there shouldn't be any issues with that. And I don't think there was. I mean, I went outside and I popped my face out for a few seconds just to see.
I know there has been in the past, though, when...
well, there's been stuff that goes wrong without any kind of solar eclipse happening. Right. But there's been when there's sunspots, that kind of stuff, they'll give you warnings that that's happening. Like when there's solar flares, like they'll put out technical alerts saying you may have issues because there's solar flares. But... I did. Did you get to see any of it while you were covering it? I mean, did you get to look up? And
it was neat.
Did you have the glasses, or were you just looking directly at it?
I just looked. I like to live dangerously.
I did the same thing.
But someone had a big, thick piece of like welder's glass, and I got to look at it that way.
Apparently, like people were going out and spending like up to $50 for eclipse viewing glasses. And apparently you could just go to Walmart and buy like a pair of welding goggles for like $6.
Yeah.
And would have been able to see everything just fine.
I guess it doesn't work as well, but I mean, you can still see it.
All I know is like I looked up at the sky. I was like, nothing's happening. And then Nancy, who works here at the FM station, was like, here, look through my glasses. And I was like, oh, yeah, now I can kind of see what's going on.
Yeah, because I thought I missed it.
Right.
And then they were like, oh, no, it's like in the middle right now.
And everybody's like, oh, it got so dark and everything got weird. It never got dark here.
No.
Like, I didn't hear crickets chirping, and animals weren't, dogs weren't barking. It didn't get weird here.
2024, though, I'm going to travel to the path, though.
Heading up to Montpellier?
Yeah.
That's where it's supposed to be the most total.
That'll be good.
So, did you see they got Bonnie Tyler to sing Total Eclipse of the Heart during the Total Eclipse?
That's fun.
That was pretty good. Still not as good as literal Total Eclipse of the Heart. Have you seen that video?
No.
Oh my God! Let's just stop the show and go watch it on YouTube now. Have you seen the literal music videos where they take like music videos and instead of singing the songs, they're singing what's going on in the video?
I've seen a couple of people do that. Yeah.
So there's one for Total Eclipse of the Heart.
That's awesome.
Just amazing.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's hilarious. We'll watch it after the show. And speaking of video capabilities and video technologies, we are going to be joined a little bit later on by our guest for tonight, John David Miller. He goes by Dave. We're going to be talking with him about his book, The Siebold Effect, Beyond Science, History, Ghosts, and the Appalachian Supernatural. And so we will talk about what the Siebold Effect is with Dave, and we'll find out a little bit more about his theories, which are quite controversial. I got the book, and I wanted to start reading the book, but I started to realize that this is one of those topics where if I do read the book, I might get ahead of the audience a little bit. So I said, you know what, I'm going to just wait, and I'm going to have Dave explain it to me in plain speak like he will for the listeners so that we don't go too crazy with it. And just a quick programming note before we get into the Week in Weird. I want everyone to know that tomorrow morning there's going to be a special edition of the Chris McCarthy Show here on WBSM. Now, for those of you who don't know about the New Bedford Highway murders, you know our friend Aaron Cadju, who co-directed the Bridgewater Triangle documentary. Well, he is. I thought that was our. All of a sudden, I just see somebody walk by in the glass. I'm like, what? Somebody just walking by the studio. So Aaron co-directed the Bridgewater Triangle documentary. His new project is a documentary on the highway murders, the New Bedford highway murders, still unsolved to this day. And so he's in the process of putting that film together. I've seen the rough cut of the first part, and it was amazing. And I know where he's going with it, so this is going to be groundbreaking. But there's a new book out called Shallow Graves that was written by Maureen Boyle, who was the newspaper reporter who was actually on the story when it happened in 1988. So she'll be here with Chris McCarthy talking about that book tomorrow morning. I think he's having her on at 11. Is that what he said?
Yes.
So tomorrow at 11, if you tune into WBSM, but you should tune in at 10 for the whole, Sunday brunch show with Chris McCarthy. But tomorrow he'll be having her on this station on WBSM. So if you are listening on SpookySouthCoast.com and on YouTube or through our app, you can get to the WBSM live audio feed. You don't go live with the video on Sunday mornings, right? It's just recorded.
No, but I mean, you have the capability.
Don't make it harder for me, man. If it's easy, I'll do it. If it's hard, they can just wait for the video.
Right.
But you can listen to it live through the WBSM app. And speaking of being able to do things live, let's see if this will work, Matt. Let's see if we can bring up our paranormal news correspondent, Ashley Turner, for the Week in Weird. And I'm going to try and bring her up over here. Let me just make sure. Hold on, Tim. Make sure your audio's down on your video stream. It is. I can still hear me. That must be from Ashley's computer. But you can listen to it live through the WBSM.
Ashley turned on the computer.
And speaking of being able to do things live, let's see if this... Yep, I think she's turned me down. Oh, I think it might work. Can you hear us, Ashley? Wait a minute. All right, can you hear us now, Ashley?
Hi.
Whoa, that's my fault. So we are getting a little bit of a double back there. No, seems like it's gone.
Yeah, I don't hear it.
Excellent. Wow, well, this is going to work. Now Matt's going to try and bring up the video.
Bam, here I am.
We'll see if we can... Well, I can see you, but we're waiting to make it so that the audience can see you as well.
I'll just make faces at you until then.
That's fine. I would expect that.
Oh, there I am.
Oh, look at that. It's working. You figured it out, Matt.
I guess so.
Oh, man.
So far, so good.
You know what? You've done such a good job tonight now. I have tapioca pudding from the dollar store in my secret hidden spot in the newsroom. I will give you some tapioca pudding after the show.
That's excellent.
I'm going to send you a gold star.
I'll take it. I'll take a gold star and tapioca pudding.
All right. So, this is the way that we're going to try and do the Week in Weird in the future then, whenever you can. Whenever you can go live, we'll try and bring you on live.
Most definitely. This is fun.
All right. So, you have some stories planned for us?
I do.
Or do you want to just make faces for the rest of the segment? Either way.
I could do that too. They're going to be a little jet lagged, but it's okay.
Jet lagged?
Yeah, because it's like a little lagging.
Oh, okay. I was like
jet lag, whatever, same thing.
Okay. All right. Well, go right ahead and give us your first story.
So before I made my stories, I didn't know you guys were going to talk about the eclipse, so that's what my stories are about.
I'm sure they're better than what we were talking about, though.
Well, I found out that a Christian radio host named Brian Fisher is claiming that the eclipse is a sign of work of Satan. Now, we all know that the solar eclipse happened this past week. It's a huge deal for some. Some saw the whole thing, and people like us in New England, we only saw a little bit of it. But a Christian radio host believes the eclipse is a sign of Satan. He states, "This is a metaphor or a sign of the work of the Prince of Darkness and is observing the light of God's trust." He wrote, in adding, "Satan is unwillingly to serve as an accomplice to resonate the public acknowledgement of God and seeking the representations of Christian faith." So I personally don't know what to think about it. I mean, I don't think it's connected to Satan. I just think it's what their solar system does. You can let me know in the comments below.
I mean, there is a long history of people associating eclipses with supernatural explanations. You know, one of the stories that ties back to this area is when King Philip Metacom was trying to decide whether or not to attack the English settlers during the days before King Philip's War. It was actually a total lunar eclipse that gave him the idea that, that gave him the sign that said, all right, I should definitely do this. And then there's always been those weird explanations for eclipses. I don't think it's the work of the devil. I still like to think that there's a giant out there in the sky and he was just putting his thumb over the sun for a minute.
I like your side of the story better.
And thunder is just God bowling.
Yes, finally someone says that.
No reason to be afraid. All right. What else?
My second story is about more paranormal activity with the solar eclipse. The Mutual UFO Network has been slammed with reports of people who filmed/photographed or claimed to see UFOs while watching the eclipse this past week. Witnesses were sent in reports saying that after taking pictures facing south towards the moon while the sun was completely covered, little black dots arrived next to it. Now, I have a photo. I'm sure it'll be up later next time in the video. You guys can see it. I can post it on our Facebook page. But again, I'm not sure. I didn't get to see any part of it, the eclipse, because we were not allowed to go outside for my job. So,
well, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I work with little kids now, so they're like, no, it's going to blind them, so I didn't get to see. But all these photos were taken in Nebraska. Nowhere else but Nebraska.
Well, I mean, was that in the path of totality? Probably. It was kind of like across the middle of the country,
Yeah.
It was kind of like a from the upper left down to the lower right type of thing. By the way, while you were telling that story, I was totally trying to point because Matt put, for those of you on the radio, you're missing out on this. You got to be watching on Spooky TV at SpookySouthCoast.com and on YouTube and on our free Spooky South Coast app. But we have the picture-in-picture technology here, and I was trying to point to you as it was going, and I definitely cannot look at the camera and figure out where to point based on that. So that's on me.
Well, you tried. That's all that matters.
It looks like you're doing a hokey pokey or something.
Hold on.
Turn yourself around.
That's what it's all about.
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
What? All right.
We're learning that in my class this week. Good job.
I just got it down myself. So do you have another story to share with us?
I do, and this one comes out from South Carolina. The South Carolina residents were being warned that after the eclipse, they are needed to stay inside because it's going to draw out the energy of the lizard man. Although they're saying they don't know if the lizard man becomes more active during the solar eclipse, but they want everyone to stay on high alert because they're unsure of what could happen. So if you know more information about this, please let us know in the comments below. If you experienced anything weird before or during the eclipse, let me know. I'm really interested in this whole situation. For me, my sleep pattern was just thrown off a little bit. I'm waiting for something cool to happen. Still waiting and nothing's happening. So yeah, and then make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter because we're always up to something.
Well, absolutely. I do want to bring up one story because this is something that was shared the other day, and I just want to get your thoughts. I don't know if you've seen yet, Ashley. I think you posted it. I'm assuming you posted it because there was a shot at iPhones in the comments.
Oh, yeah.
So I assumed that it was you because, you and I are grown-ups and we have Android phones. But there's this painting that's going around, a painting from the 1930s that shows a Native American gazing at a cell phone. I don't know if you've had a chance to see this picture yet. I think Matt can probably bring it up.
Right.
onto the screen. I should have given you a heads up that I was going to do this. But it's a painting from the 1930s that shows, it's called Mr. Pynchon and the Settling of Springfield, and it depicts a meeting between English settlers and Native Americans in Massachusetts during the 17th century. And so the story was going around with, is this Native American looking at an iPhone? And Matt put up, no, he's looking at an Android. That's a Galaxy S8. You're just trying to get us the sponsorship deal.
That.
I'm just looking at it and trying to figure out, like, first of all, somebody could have taken that picture and modified it. But
yeah. And then again, I'm team iPhone, so.
Well, that's your fault. But I'm just trying to figure out what else it could have been.
Well, it could have been a number of things. You know, it could have been like them looking at a tool that they created. It could have been just a whole bunch of different things. You know, their fields, their crops, their boats. You have to think about what they were used to seeing back then.
Well,
versus what we're seeing now.
There's one suggestion that it could be a mirror or a Bible, but it's small. I mean, it's the size of a cell phone. And
he's holding it kind of like
he's holding it. He's not like looking
like
off.
The thumb is on the screen, or
no. I'd throw it. I have it on my screen. I'd throw it up if I could, but it's on another paranormal radio show's website, so I don't want to give Coast to Coast AM any more props than they need. But you can. First of all, it's a Native American like sitting. It looks like he's sitting in a boat, like in a canoe, with some jugs and looking into his phone. So I'm just going to assume, based on this, that they're having some sort of a party, and he's on the Native American version of Tinder, trying to find a hookup for after he drinks all these jugs of booze, and they're going to fill the tub up with some booze, and they're looking for some squaws to come on over, and whatever happens.
I always like these pictures of like supposed time travelers,
right?
Because like I want to believe it's true, but it's probably not.
It's probably not, but it's fun to pretend that it is,
right?
And
I have a feeling that it's not a mirror. It might be a Bible. I say not a mirror because I don't feel like they had that type of materials back then for the Native Americans, because they just lived off of what they had.
No, this is something that, because it's actually a meeting between the English and the Native Americans. So the English settlers are giving the item to him, and he's looking at it. So it's something that they probably brought in. What I think nobody's pointing out about this painting, though, and were we able to get it up on screen, or can you not do it with?
Maybe next week we'll go into adding pictures and stuff while we're going.
Well, I was going to say, do you want me to? I could pick up the camera and point it there, but then you'd have to reset it. Do you want me to try and do that?
I'm trying to find it. Hold on.
Okay. Well, anyway, the thing that I want to know is why nobody else has pointed out the fact that right over this Native American that is staring at this cell phone, they have John Cena tied up to a post for some reason. Like, it looks just like John Cena. And I'm wondering, first of all, like, why hasn't Super Cena busted out of being tied up to a post?
Maybe because nobody can see him.
Nobody can see him. That's what I was thinking. But I'm pretty sure he's going to give the AA to the Native American using the phone. Anyway, we won't continue talking about a picture that we can't see on radio anyway. But Ashley, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being our video guinea pig this week.
No problem.
Don't chew on that code. You're going to electrocute yourself.
Oh, God. Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't. Stop it.
She's like, I'm on camera.
She's like, I didn't know you could see me.
I forgot.
You thought you were John Cena. You can't see me. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll try doing this again next week.
All right. Bye.
Have a great night. That is our paranormal news correspondent, Ashley Turner, and the wonders of Skype. Pretty amazing there, Matt. You figured it out.
It's fun.
And I think it adds a new element for the people that are watching on Spooky TV.
Right. Hopefully we can kind of iron out the kinks and do it a little smoother.
I thought that went pretty smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it could be jazzier.
Except now I can see you in my Skype window.
Oh.
So I might just cut that call. Yeah. Just because it's weirding me out. There we go. Weirds me out to see you in two different places.
By the way, why does Skype have the worst notifications?
And they haven't changed them at all.
It's terrible.
Like, we've been using Skype for like a decade now.
Right.
And it's still the same stupid sounds. Like they still haven't made the adjustments there. So anyway, this is a test run running that video that we're going to try and incorporate that you were saying more and more with guests, so that they can actually be seen on the screen while we're interviewing them instead of just having it be. Did you just hit your keys, by the way? I thought I just saw the lights flash on your car.
I might have.
All right. Either that or somebody's breaking into your car. Well, you know, I keep an eye out the window to see what's going on. So the idea is that, you know, we can have the guests actually be a visual part of the show instead of just having to throw up photos of them all the time, because sometimes there's some weird pictures that they send.
Right. Exactly.
It's happened recently.
Right.
So, and again, we'll be joined in just a bit by our guest, John David Miller. We'll be talking about the Siebold effect, beyond science, history, ghosts, and the Appalachian supernatural. But I do want to ask you, Matt, you had mentioned there about wanting to believe that these time travel things are possible. And we see all these goofy things like, you know, does this Civil War soldier look like John Travolta? And
right,
like
the Nicolas Cage
one. And
there's
who else was there?
Keanu Reeves, I think, has one.
So, like, those are kind of just like, okay, it's coincidental that these people kind of look alike.
I mean, I think that's a, I don't know if it's necessarily a phenomenon, but, I mean, there are, like, doppelgangers.
They apparently lost sound on the video as soon as Ashley hung up on Spooky TV.
Oh, no.
So, I should I not ask you questions while you figure that out?
Maybe.
All right. You figure that out. But I've, you know, like Matt said, I've always wanted to think that these time travel things are possible. I've always wanted to think that we will eventually figure out how to do that. I actually thought that for a while I was kind of subscribing to the theory that perhaps UFOs and alien visitors were future people coming back, because they're humanoid. And if you follow the progression of how people have changed over millennia, you know, maybe we would eventually look like that as we had less and less of a need to have hair on our bodies if the earth is indeed getting warmer. And, you know, maybe we would all kind of be thinner, and maybe our eyes would become bigger as we spend more time in the dark. Maybe our eyes would, you know, more time staring at devices and computer screens. Maybe our eyes will get bigger and almond shaped and completely void of.
Oh, like that's aliens are our future.
That's, you know, I used to think about that. I used to think about that as a possibility, but
it's possible.
So my assumption being is that at some point, you know, if time travel was possible, we would figure it out. If it's possible,
I think we'd be fatter.
You think so? It'd be more like in WALL-E, where everybody was just fat on a big floating ship,
more like kind of maybe ET-ish, where we're just like big waddling poops.
we kind of already are.
Yeah.
But at least I am. But if time travel is possible, if it is capable of happening, we will eventually figure it out. And, you know, I always thought the simplest idea was the Superman theory. If you just fly backwards fast enough, you're just going to go back in time a day. Like if there was a way to actually take the Earth and spin it the opposite way, you would be going backward in time. Now, that doesn't mean that you'd be reliving what happened in time. It just would mean that time is going backwards. But I think that if that's possible in a way of being manipulated, let me see if I can explain this the way I hear it in my brain and make it make sense out of my mouth. If you're able to manipulate time physically in that way, then why can't you take the representations of what happened and do it? Because, like, think about this. We're at a point now where almost every moment of every day is captured on film somewhere.
Right.
We're at a point where virtual reality is getting to the point where it's indistinguishable from actual reality. So,
have you seen the things that they're doing with AR? It's crazy.
What? Well, in general, or is something new?
Well, it's kind of like virtual reality, except it blends what's really going on with a virtual world.
Like the guy,
but it's very seamless, or it seems very seamless.
Like the guy who made the AR version of Super Mario Brothers on an actual, it's like an actual walkway in a park.
Right, that's the future.
So if you have all these ways of creating it, like we could recreate history. Not obviously going back to previous to when we had all these cameras, but, you know, 50 years from now, we might be able to create an entire
Assassin's Creed.
we can create an entire VR version of where we are now, and people will be able to go back and do it. And I think that's probably what we're going to get for time travel. I don't think we're ever going to be able to physically move ourselves back in time to another period or anything before a time when it was recorded. But I think we'll be able to create an experience, a virtual experience, in which we can actually go back and see things. So instead of just watching a movie about what happened in 2020, school kids of 2080 will actually get to be immersed in 2020.
Right. I mean, I don't know if I can wrap my head around time travel in the whole, but I think the possibilities behind it, I think you can only go backwards. You can never go forward. That's very
Dr. Sam Beckett.
Yeah.
So that is pretty much my time travel guru. When people ask me to explain quantum physics to them and time travel and string theory, I literally do the Sam Beckett. Like I just take a string. See, time is a string, but instead of being a straight line, it's a ball. Like I actually do that whole thing. So, all right, I'll ask you this question then, because it looks like the audio is back up and running on Spooky TV. Time travel's possible, only into the past. Where do you go?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't want to go. Like, how long would it be? This, like, am I gonna go back and like live the rest of my days?
No. This is
just like go and like have a vacation.
This is it's more of it's an observer position. So you are there, but you are not physically interacting with the environment. Because I would not want to see if time travel is possible.
It'd be like Jacob Marley, or
like Ebenezer Scrooge. Yeah, it would be something like that. Because if time travel was possible, I would not want it to be something people could go back and actually affect. I'd want it to be on an observational basis. So for the sake of this argument, you can only go back and observe things, but observe things in real time and in firsthand in the way that they actually happen. So you are there, but just you have no influence over the events that are happening.
I probably want to go maybe see some battles or some wars that were good.
I look at this
like
idea
Genghis Khan.
I look at this idea of time travel as like a husband going clothes shopping with the wife when she has to try on clothes. Like you're just there watching, and nothing that you do will make a difference. Like,
what if I step on a butterfly?
So, but that's the thing is like you can't physically manipulate your environment. So we can eliminate all those questions. Like you can't kill Hitler. So like you can only go back and watch. And so with that in mind, so you want to go back and see like famous battles and what happened?
That'd be kind of cool, yeah.
Would you want to go back to the beginning and kind of...
To see where it all happened? I don't know. I remember that Star Trek episode, and it seemed very uneventful.
I think that I'd like to go and see what happened, and I'd like to go and see, it's hard because you're not going to be able to like pinpoint a moment in evolution because it happened over time. But
I guess if you have this ability, you can go back to whenever there's a question about a piece of history, you could go back. So you could go back to the JFK assassination, see what happened, see it with your own eyes.
That would be one of my major points that I'd want to go back to.
You could go to Roswell and see the whatever crashed. You could see it actually happen.
And what if you had the ability to go back, but you could only go back to where you are physically in space? So if you're sitting here in Fairhaven, Massachusetts at the WBSM Spooky Studio, and now you're going to go back in time to 1850, but you're going to be in that spot. All right, keep it with the JFK assassination. You can time travel back from where you're sitting right now, from this current date of August 26, 2017. You can go back to November 22nd, 1963, but you're still sitting in this space. You have to do the work to get from where you are to Dallas, Texas, to go and see what happened. Would you do it? Or would you just be like, that's too
if I know what's going to happen, but I would still not be able to interact.
Right. You can't interact.
So just kind of like, I would just have to travel as a ghost.
You basically have to walk from here to Dallas, Texas.
Are we going into the like ghost territory, explaining ghosts? Is this what happens? They're just time travelers?
Maybe, is this the Seibold effect?
Maybe.
We'll find out. No, but I'm just trying to see, like, if it wasn't a matter of instantaneously...
I think I would.
Like, if you couldn't instantaneously be transported to the place that you wanted to see. would it still be
if
worth the effort?
If I can't interact with anything, then I can't drive a car. So that's out. So I'm gonna have to walk.
Right,
to
I guess.
Texas.
All right, let's throw that out. Let's throw that out. That just makes it more difficult. Ashley had a great point in the chat room.
It would be kind of cool to go back to here in the studio and see like the live broadcast of them reporting on it.
Well, they wouldn't have been here.
Well, or
right.
wherever.
You could probably walk from here to New Bedford. That wouldn't be too much of a pain. It's only a few miles down across the bridge. It was the same bridge back then, I'm sure. So that bridge is like over 100 years old.
What did it actually say?
She said she would go back to the day that the Bordens were murdered.
Oh, that's
and see if Lizzie Borden did it. Yeah, so that's that. There you go. Go back to OJ. See if OJ actually did anything. If you had to live somewhere, though, if you went back to your original point of like you could spend like a vacation, like a week in a time period, what time period would you want to spend a week living in?
Only a week?
Yeah, sure.
Probably 1800s. Like
Old West. That's I'd go to the
after
Old West.
this, probably after the Civil War. Maybe I think that would be kind of a cool time to live.
I'd want to go to the Old West. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely 100%.
Like when they were when they were started introducing cars and things, and there was a lot of like industrial technology.
Yeah, during the Industrial Revolution. And would you want to go back to colonial times at all?
I don't speak English too good, so I think people would call me out and be like, "Where are you from?"
Right.
Really quickly, very quickly.
I do want to I've always said that I kind of would love to go back in time where we live and just see what it was like, 400 years ago here. Mm-hmm. Like I'd like to see that with my own eyes, just to be like,
find the wampum belt.
That would be huge to find King Philip's wampum belt, but to just be able to like see the landscape that I'm so familiar with and what it would have looked like then. Because I try to picture it in my head when I'm reading about it, and I read a lot about it, especially like Nathaniel Philbrick books. I've read a lot of those, and as you're reading it, like you're trying to picture in your head, and they're like, oh, they walked from Wareham to Mattapoisett, and you're like, well, that's not that long of a walk, but they didn't have Route 6 then.
Right.
So it might have been a long walk because you're going through the woods.
I mean, I get amazed. I think there was a video that I found of someone videotaped Route 6. Now that you mentioned it, popped in my head. Somebody videotaped Route 6 from like 1987.
Really?
And like I was like blown away. I was like, oh my God.
Like just driving down Route 6?
I'm like, look at that McDonald's.
Really? I'm totally going to YouTube right now and looking this up. As the show comes to a...
I think it's Fairhaven. I think that's what it was. I don't know what the title of the video is. And it could not even be
a
like
drive on Route 6 in Fairhaven in 1985. I just found it. So, wow. Oh, geez.
It's a trip down memory lane that like you don't really remember anyway.
A&W. Although the sign's still the same for where Friendly's is. They still have that same thing there. This is cool. I'm just going to leave this up in the background. But yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of like
tweet it out, and then people can actually watch it.
That's a good point.
So I suppose I could bring it up on the stream.
I'm going to put it right now into the chat room. It's almost like if we had somebody that was here on the show that was just putting stuff in the chat room during the show or putting stuff on social media. We should time travel to a point where we can do that.
Right. By the way, thank you to all the spooky South Coast listeners that are choosing this over the Conor McGregor fight.
Right. Which
I mean, it happens at midnight anyway, but
is it? I thought it was just after 11, sometime after 11 that they would fight.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'm putting up the video right now so people can follow along with it. So now you can see it in the chat room and on the Spooky South Coast Twitter feed if you want to check it out for yourself. But yeah, Kmart. Remember when there was a Kmart?
Sorry,
there was a Kmart there like up until like 3 months ago. Oh yeah, there's the McDonald's way that it used to look. Yeah,
it's weird because there was a lot more trees.
There was a lot more lighted up signs. Oh, that 7-Eleven was a Christie's. this is great radio because I'm totally like paying attention to this instead of actually.
And like all the old cars, and they're just so like boxy.
It's freaky because like right now we're driving by where the station is.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Almax. Yeah, Almax.
See, because I remember
there was a Star Store here.
Was the Bijou Theater right over
Bowler's Country
over
Club?
yonder? Was that a theater?
The Bijou was downtown. Like down Main Street.
Oh, okay.
Where they like.
Did they have a bowling alley or something over here?
Where Stop and Shop was Bowler's Country Club, and then where Scramblers is in this plaza was Pockets. So this is where you came on a Friday night when I was in high school, and you said, even though we were in high school at the same time, but this is where you came and you said, we going to Bowler's Country Club or are we going to Pockets? Well, let's go to both. And actually, I'm sorry, Pockets is where Cardoza's is now.
Yeah.
And where Scramblers is.
But Pockets used to be at where the Dirty Video Store is.
Was that where it was? It was in the Dirty Video Store spot? But do you know what was down the other end, though? Where Scramblers
Strawberries.
is? Strawberries.
Oh, yeah, good old Strawberries.
Who remembers Strawberries? That was like the record store. You could get your tickets there for concerts.
I think my first time there, I had, my mom gave me like $10 or $12 or something, and she gave me a choice. Well, she said you can buy whatever you want. She was very open to my musical exploration at the time. And I had, in my hand, I had like the Great Milenko. I don't know if I was 10. I had the Great Milenko, and I had Weird Al's Smells Like...
the name of the album was... It was Smells Like Nirvana was the song. Off the Deep End.
Off the Deep End, yeah. Yes. And I had those two, and I was like in the store for like 20 minutes trying to figure it out.
I can beat that.
And I went with Weird Al.
I can beat that. Very similar story.
What's that?
I was about 10 years old, and I'm at the Brockton Bradley's. I had $10 of, I don't know, maybe birthday money or from helping out or whatever. And I'm standing in the tape section of Bradley's. And this is, and when you went into those stores back then to buy your cassette tapes, they had those long, stupid plastic things on them to put them into the shelves. And so I'm standing there, and I'm holding in one hand, I have the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper. And in the other hand, I have Weird Al Yankovic's Even Worse.
It's always Weird Al.
And I'm like, which do I go with? Do I go with the Beatles or do I go with Weird Al? And I went with Weird Al. And that's
a wise choice. It's a wise choice.
I went and I told my aunt the story, and she ended up dubbing me a tape of Sgt. Pepper anyway. So
there's always that choice. Like you always have that the A or B when you're over in a music store.
Right. And you don't have enough money for both.
Right.
The best is when you would want something and you'd find it under the section of cheap tapes that all said the nice price. Remember those? That was when you were doing good. When you found like Don McLean's American Pie and it was like $4.99, you're like, yes, I can get 2 tapes. But
I think I got a nice price with it was Megadeth's Peace Sells But Who's Buying and Iron Maiden's Somewhere in Time.
Because that's what they would do is when the new stuff would come out.
I got both of those at the same time. Drove my downstairs neighbor crazy.
Those are 2 great albums.
But it was worth it.
Yeah,
it was worth it.
I mean, in those days, like if somebody came out with something new, you would always find their previous stuff, like in the nice price area. So like you would go and get your brand new Metallica when they just came out with the Black Album, and everybody's running out and buying that. And then over there on the nice price is like Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning and all that stuff. And these days, like everything's going to cost you the same price. It's $1 for a song or $10 for an album, whatever it is. So you don't have the same. I mean, they put stuff on sale, but you don't have that same thrill of finding the bargain.
Right.
Like that you used to find. Like when everybody would be into a band and be like, yeah. But have you ever heard Bon Jovi's first album? And then you pull it out and everybody's like, oh, that's great. And you only paid $5 for it. So, and of course, the best part of the 80s was like you and your friends never had to buy the same albums because you could just dub them all off each other.
Right.
And I remember the days of...
Up until it got to that Napster point.
This has nothing to do with paranormal stuff anyway.
No, well, this is just reminiscing. We did this last week too.
Right, we will have some paranormal talk coming up. But one of the things that I remember is that I didn't have a tape deck that had the dual cassette. Did you ever have that problem?
What was it?
Having a cassette player recorder that was only the single deck?
Oh, yeah.
So you couldn't like dub something from somebody
right,
else.
So you had to do it with the microphone.
No, see, I didn't even have the microphone. I would just put the two single deck things right up next to each other. And then you got to like kind of adjust the volume, which is probably why we're such sound nerds now. It's because like we had to learn on crap like that.
Right.
And if I had known that there was such a thing back then as a patch cord, like it would have changed my whole life.
Right.
I didn't get my first CD player until I was like 16 years old. Well, I was 15. It was like 2 weeks before my 16th birthday.
I think it was like in 8th grade or something.
So it was probably around the same time.
Which people are like, what? What's a CD?
People that are listening are like, what? Are those little round things that all the hipsters buy? No, those are.
Isn't it weird? Like people don't use their CD player enough in their car now that they have like a cell phone thing, so you can like just stick your cell phone like in the slot, like it holds it. You know what I mean?
There's a thing to put a cell phone. Like, there's a holder that goes in your CD player.
It's like a disc, and then it has like a little arm that comes out of it. So you're basically like totally not using the CD slot for what it's.
That'd
meant
be way
for.
better than the one that I use in my car now, coming out of the cigarette lighter.
But it just goes to show you how like passe that technology is. That they're just like, we're just gonna stick a phone there now.
Well, it used to be that you used your cassette player to have the little line that would come out that you'd plug into your CD player. Like
they still sell those.
My first ability to play CDs in a car was a Discman that I Velcroed to my dashboard.
Yeah.
You were there when I did it, because I think you actually helped me lay the Velcro out, because if I just put it up there, it would slide around and skip. So I had to actually Velcro it so it would stay straight in the spot, stay right in the spot and not skip. And I remember buying that Discman for $100 at Leechmere.
Oh yeah, I bought
some of my graduation money.
I think that was my first big purchase. I think I bought a Sony Walkman, and it also played metal tapes.
Metal tapes,
like Sony made metal, like instead of like the vinyl, or I don't know if it was like vinyl or whatever tape, but it was actually made of metal.
Oh wow!
And it was supposed to sound better. It's supposed to be like, I couldn't afford to buy anything on the metal tape.
It's like when I was going to,
but it had the ability to do so.
It's like when I was going to start buying DVD audio for everything, and I bought like one. I was like, it was $20. I'm never buying another one. I have two. I have Fleetwood Mac Rumors, and I have the Who's.
Good,
I have the Who's Tommy. It does sound phenomenal, and a surround sound system. Oh my god! But so we will be talking about the paranormal coming up in the next hour. We absolutely will be. I will be joined by our guest, Mr. John David Miller. We'll be talking about the Seibold effect, beyond science, history, ghosts, and the Appalachian supernatural. So we'll be talking about that coming up in the next hour. We do want to let everybody know that we have, I think there's 8 or 9 tickets left for our Lizzie Borden event that's happening on September 23rd. It's called Lizzie's Axe to Fall, and it's going to be a mixture of old school and new school technology for ghost hunting. And as we announced last week, we have 2 special guests that will be there at that event. It's going to be Stephanie and myself hosting the event, and also joining us that night will be Ty Gowan of Haunt Me, who you heard on the show here recently, and also Porter from Haunted Towns will be there as well, and from Ghost Asylum, from the Tennessee Wraith Chasers. They'll both be coming just to hang out, and they'll take part in the investigation. It should be a fun night. As I mentioned, 8-9 tickets left, I think, which you can get at SpookySouthCoast.com. If you go right now, they will be gone very shortly, so don't wait too long if you plan on joining us for that event. But I also want to thank everybody that tunes in to Haunted Towns each week. We had the Salem episode that aired last week. This week coming up is Savannah. The team will be heading to Savannah, Georgia to investigate some of the hauntings there. And then I think I heard that the next episode will be Bisbee, Arizona. And then they're still trying to shake out the rest of the air schedule for that. But it's on Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. on Destination America. You can also catch it on DestinationAmerica.com and on demand and on the Destination America Go app. I don't know, are you familiar with those Go apps, Matt? All the networks are doing them now.
Oh, yeah.
So you can check that out. And they put up extra bonus video footage during the week as well. So there's always cool stuff to check out there. But thank you, everybody that's been watching it and live tweeting during it and, letting the network know how much you're enjoying it. We have a lot more stories that we want to tell, so hopefully we'll get a chance to get out there and tell some more. I think that's the end of the promotional portion of the show. I think we plugged what we have to plug.
It's a good show, by the way.
Haunted Towns. You watched it?
I watched the first episode last night.
Oh,
It's excellent.
Thank you. You don't usually watch ghost shows.
I know.
I appreciate
It's
that.
fun.
He's like, I didn't watch it for you. I watched it for Porter. But that's fine. But again, thank you everybody that's been tuning in and saying all the kind words about it. Oh, and one thing I will say too, by the way, coming up in October, we're going to be having the next House of Bricks wrestling show, and I need the Spooky South Coast audience to show up for this thing because I want to make sure that Michael Foster doesn't try to show up again.
Right, I heard
He's been
some
suspended.
stuff went down last night.
Yeah, I'll talk about that coming back up after the news. I'll just give the word about that. I mean, I am doing a little bit better. My head's still a little bit ringing and my neck's still a little bit stiff, but I'll let you know what happened there last night coming up following the news. And then we'll also be joined by our guest, John David Miller, to talk about his book, The Seibold Effect, Beyond Science, History, Ghosts, and the Appalachian Supernatural. So we're going to talk about all that and more coming up in the next hour of Spooky South Coast. Don't go anywhere because it's going to get really strange, really weird, and actually we'll talk about the paranormal, which we haven't been doing for the last few minutes.